how to handle a negative review. Now, picture this. You open up your email and you just saw you have a 1-star review on Google from a client that barely used your services and has nothing but complaints. So what do? So let's talk about it. First of all, if you haven't gotten a negative review yet, it just means you haven't sold enough. Everyone has negative reviews. Even the biggest best-selling book of all times is going to have somebody that says, this was horrible, don't waste your time, right? How is that possible, right? Because the bigger you get, the harder it will be to please 100% of your clients. When you're smaller, it's easier, right? Now you have to remember that no one gets all positive 5-star glowing reviews. Even the Airbnb with the super host, right, with 1,000 5-star reviews has someone saying it was the worst experience. Don't stay here. All right. We know this, and so do potential clients. So remember that. Now, I know it feels horrible to see someone write something that you don't even believe is true, right? You don't believe it's deserved. And they're bashing you publicly online with a fake name. Okay. Here's the deal. It's the cost of doing business. So let's talk about what you could do, should do when this actually happens. So number one, respond, but not immediately. You most likely need to calm down a little bit because I can feel my heart rate rising, right? If that happens to you when you're reading it, you are most likely very upset. So you don't want to go in there and start being defensive and being argumentative. All right. So here's the deal. Everyone is going to read your response, and the way that you respond is going to matter. So don't be emotional. Don't get defensive. You need to be professional. Okay. When I read a bad review, I immediately look to see, was there a response from the business owner? Okay. And sometimes the business owner response makes me feel good about what happened and how they were talking about it. Okay. I can tell sometimes that the customer is overreacting, maybe even a little like embellishing, right? They left something out or they just had way too high of expectations. All right. For instance, we are heading to Paris this summer. By the time you're hearing this, it's possible it's sold out, but you can just DM me on Instagram at Stacy Tuschel, the word Paris, and I will let you know if we have spots open to mastermind with us there for 2 days. But anyway, as I was looking at beautiful places to stay, there was this one Airbnb that literally had 1,000+ 5-star reviews. I think it was like a 4.8 star out of 1,000, which is pretty incredible. And this one guy was ripping apart the Airbnb, and he said it was dirty and grungy and super old and like just all of this stuff. And it did make me question for a minute, like, maybe it's a new owner. Maybe they haven't taken care of it lately because it was recent. And the owner chimed in and he was like, he was very nice and very professional. And he said, I'm assuming you've never been to Paris before because every building here is old, right? I mean, they're like hundreds and hundreds of years old. So he was basically just saying, I completely understand what you're saying if this has been your first experience, but this is Paris. It's what makes it like part of their like ancient history and all of that, right? And as I was reading it, I'm like, oh my goodness, this guy, right? He's a newbie. He's never been. He was picturing like this brand new construction building, right? Now, if the owner was defensive and rude, I may have gone, okay, this isn't the place, right? So remember, your response is not necessarily for the person who wrote it. It's for everyone else who's using that to decide, should I like use this person's services? Okay. So if this is a situation you are unaware of, let the person know that you would love to try to help resolve it and where they can contact customer support, right? When somebody sees that they haven't even tried to resolve this issue or they haven't even told the business, right? All of a sudden it's like, well, hello, give them an opportunity, okay? Another thing is sometimes people use fake names or they have usernames, right? And you have no idea who it is. So at least you are showing people, hey, we haven't heard this yet. He or she maybe never complained and we would like to make it right, right? So I really believe that businesses have a big opportunity to wow customers even in mistakes. Number 2, ask a few raving clients if they would go to that specific site, wherever the review is left, and leave an honest review. Do not mass blast your community, right? Or you could be asking others who are not happy to go help that review like even more concrete it. Okay. So what I would do is I would ask one or two people who you know love your business and love working with you and what you do. And I would just say to them, would you mind leaving an honest review on this site? Okay. So here's the deal. When you've got somebody now to go and leave their review, what's going to happen is that negative review might be the most recent one. Okay. And people might be thinking, oh, well, they had good ones up top, but now it's going downhill. Right. But when other people chime in after with more recent, like, this is not my experience, this is what we've experienced, right? It will start getting people to go, okay, it was a one-off, one-time bad review. Okay. So I always say you want to flush the negative review down and get some better ones on top of it. Okay. Now, if you're like, I need this deleted or I need it, it's pretty hard to get rid of negative reviews. The only time I've ever been able to get rid of a negative review, it was a complete lie. It was actually somebody, they did it on Google, and we had record of proof showing this is not a customer. They have never come here. In fact, they are actually a member of one of our competitors. And we were able to submit evidence to Google, and they did remove that one because it was false. It was just a person trying to bash us that had never actually experienced our product, right? That's the only time I've ever seen it. If you have a real client that has a negative response, it's going to be pretty impossible to try to get rid of it. Okay. So what I would do in that case is just let it be and have that response with other clients, leaving another response with it. Okay. Having a recent good review is going to help you. Okay. Number 3, go read at least 10 or more positive reviews. Remember that this is just the negative review. It's just one person's opinion, and it does not mean anything about you or your business, okay? I know it stings when someone is criticizing what you've built, right? But you can't let one negative review like completely disregard 1,000 or 100 positive reviews, right? So with that said, go start reading a few to build back up your self-esteem and know you're doing the best you can. Okay. Now, number 4 is crucial. Ask yourself, is there any truth behind this negative review? Naturally, we want to be very defensive, very argumentative of like, absolutely not. This is not what happened. But I want you to really look at this review and ask yourself, is there any truth behind it? Sometimes these reviews are nasty and they're completely ridiculous, but sometimes there is like a smidge, like a little bit of truth behind it. So even if it was exaggerated, right? How can I go the opposite direction and make our product, program, or service so much better that no one would be able to say anything about it, right? Use that info to make it even harder for somebody else to say this in the future. Okay. Now, with that said, remember, the bigger you get, the more this is going to happen, unfortunately. Okay. It's just the cost of doing business. Don't let it ruin your day or your week. Don't get fixated on this person, right? Do these 4 steps and then move on. Okay. Focus on making your business better and don't give this person any more of your time or energy.